All right, let's be blunt here. How do you know when it's time to shut up? We're talking 3 times too much. We're vomiting. We're showing up and throwing up, however you want to put it. We're talking too much. And when you talk too much, you can't persuade, you can't influence, you can't negotiate. We have to know when to ask for the yes, ask for the sale, ask for the signature on the paperwork. We're over-persuading, we're overselling. And when we do this, it sucks the emotion out of the sale. Now, you need your logic. We've talked about that, but there's the emotional side. So basically, we're going to talk about when it's time to shut up. Let's do it.
Maximize your influence. Kurt Mortensen is the author of Persuasion IQ, Laws of Charisma, and the best-selling book, Maximum Influence.
Glad to have you back. This is Maximize Your Influence. Kurt Mortensen here. This is podcast 568, where we learn the skills that'll make a difference in your life and your income and your relationships. Hopefully every aspect of your life. Because as Napoleon Hill said, persuasion's the magic ingredient. This is the key. This is why most CEOs have a sales and marketing background. It's a skill we must master. That's why we are here. And let me just put it out there. When you need to persuade someone, it's too late to learn. You got to have the tools in your toolbox before that moment, that big deal, meeting that special person, meeting that person you want to network with. That is the key. So hopefully you're out there achieving your goals, making things happen. Again, our goal here is just get a tool. One thing that you can use, you can apply, that you can use in your daily activities. So let's kick it off with the Persuasion Ninja. And I'm going to take the honors on this one. So there's a canyon trail near my house, stream, mountains, trees, beautiful. Do a little jogging, a little running, a little thinking. It's a good time for me to do personal development, brainstorming, exercise, a little multitasking. Anyway, it's a sealed off trail, right? And I see this motorcycle cop driving the motorcycle on this jogging biking trail, which I've never seen before. Interesting note, maybe they're looking for somebody, didn't think much of it. And I waved, I was polite. And I was getting ready to cross a bridge in the parking lot, and I could hear the motorcycle behind me. And I politely let him go first across the bridge with a smile. Again, not thinking much of this. So what happened, I took a phone call, right? Talked for a little bit, forgot about this police officer, and started driving home. And it's an area where you got to get over quickly to the left lane. You have to speed up fast, incoming cars. Anyway, I was gunning it, not thinking about it. There's the cop. Radar gun pulls me over. And I'm kicking myself. I'm like, why did I remember that there was a cop in the area? But that's a whole nother story probably. And I did everything right. He remembered me. We talked, had a little laugh, and he let me go. Being nice can have its rewards. Doesn't always pay out ahead of time. Doesn't guarantee you're going to get out of a ticket. In fact, if you're interested, I did a podcast a while back in the archives at maximizeyourinfluence.com on how to get out of a speeding ticket. It's pretty simple. You don't want to be like a relative of mine. They went around a corner, pulled over real fast. They both got out. Like, you don't know who's driving. You can't give us a ticket. I mean, really? Is that make someone want to give you a ticket or not want to give you a ticket? But it's pretty simple. Be a real person. They're a real person. It's their job. If you're negative, they're going to be negative. Open the glove box, 2 hands on the steering wheel, roll down your window. Be polite. Be respectful. If it's appropriate and they're not in a really foul mood, just ask. Ask for a warning. If a fast food restaurant can ask you, do you want an apple pie with that and get a 20% bump, you can ask for a warning. So I'm going to take the ninja. I did it. I was being polite. I was being nice, did everything right, and got out of a ticket, which we all know is a pain in the rear. Now let's jump into our weekly geeky scholarly article. This comes from the Journal of Cognition, Wired Magazine and Drs. Cassandro and Dr. Dijkstra, if I'm getting that one right. So this is titled, Upward Physical Movements Bring Back Happy Memories. So I've been doing a lot of research with metaphors, and we use so many different metaphors in our everyday language, and metaphors tend to be more persuasive, and charismatic people use more metaphors, and so I've been working on a persuasion process that includes more metaphors. And this study blew me away. They said that physical movement and memory are so closely intertwined that even a seemingly meaningless motion like moving marbles from one box to another can change feelings, can trigger feelings. So they're looking at this movement and feelings. And so an earlier study they looked at where right-handed people associate positive emotions when things go towards the right, versus left-handed people experience the opposite. Left is positive and right is negative. They also found how smiling and frowning alters emotion, and how sitting upright or slumping affects cognitive performance. You don't think as well. And some studies, being added to this, Dr. Cuddy's research that all this cell phone use and the slouching and leaning over is one of the reasons for all the depression out there. Interesting. So these researchers think that this motion is metaphorical, that we've come to associate spatial relationships with emotional values in our minds. And these physical motions activate the same pathways. So what they're saying is we associate these memories and these feelings with these physical movements. So here's the marble study. So students were asked to move marbles with both hands between two boxes. And as they moved the marbles, they were asked about times they felt really cool or ate something delicious. And when they were moving the marbles upward, the students were quicker to recall positive experiences and slow to remember the negative. But when they were moving the marbles in a downward fashion, happy memories came slowly and sad memories came faster. Crazy. Believe it or not, this is the study. So the findings suggest a metaphorical link between motion and memory. Now, I do know on a personal level there's truth to this. As a professional speaker, a lot of people tell me when I get to the venue and the stage, all right, this is the positive side of the stage, this is the negative side of the stage. And you learn that you point down for failure and you point up for success. And when the first person told me that, I'm like, wait a minute, I don't know. But then everyone talks about it, everyone does that. And this is a study that kind of verifies that. So think about movements and memory and metaphors and the importance of that in the persuasion process. That's our geeky article of the week. Time for a little podcast email. Of course, I can be reached at Kurt, K-U-R-T, at MaximizeYourInfluence.com. And of course, a shameless plug. MaximizeYourInfluence.com is the place for everything you need. The advanced training, Influence University. Take your Persuasion IQ assessment. It's all right there. Remember, if I use your email on this show, you get a free subscription to Influence University, which is the advanced influence, persuasion, negotiation, mindset training. So this email comes from Maria. She's from Argentina.
Oh, boy!
She says, thanks for Influence University. I am closing more sales, and thanks for the podcast. I've started at number 1, and I'm almost halfway caught up. Okay, good for you, Maria. She says, Kurt, I am a vomiter. I will admit it right now. I vomit on people. I don't know if I need therapy, but I tend to vomit on everybody. That's how I sell. How do I fix this? And how do I know, as you say, when it's time to shut up and close the deal? Maria, great question. Let's talk about that. How do you know when it's time to shut up? How do you know when it's time to close? And I'm just going to put it out there. You might not like the word, but shut up. You're talking too much. You vomit on people. You data dump, or you show up, you throw up, however you want to put it. Studies show that you're talking 3 times too much. And when you talk 3 times too much, like I said, you suck the emotion out of the room. They become indifferent, they make up objections, and they run. I've seen it too many times during a presentation when someone says, wow, that's great, how fast can we get started? And the presenter or salesperson says, hold on, I'm not done with my presentation. Hello, it's time to shut up, it's a done deal. Now, why do we do this? It's kind of how we're programmed. We're afraid of the silence, so we keep talking. Part of it is we're terrible listeners. We get too excited to prove our worth. And I'm glad you're excited and passionate about your product, but a lot of times that causes us to data dump or talk too much. And part of it is our default setting is that we tend to persuade others how we like to be persuaded. We tend to sell others how we like to be sold. And you might be the type of person that loves information, that loves the data. They might not be. So why is this bad? Well, it's costing you money. One size does not fit all. It hurts that connectivity. It creates objections. And like I keep mentioning, it destroys the emotion. Doesn't feel right. That's the emotional side of persuasion. So how do we fix this? Okay, how do we fix this? Know when it's time to shut up. Well, of course, with anything, being aware that you're doing it, or at least opening up your mind saying, well, maybe I'm doing it. Maybe this is costing money. The first part is the importance of shutting up during your presentation. Right? So you're just talking way too much. Do you know that introverts now out-persuade extroverts? Extroverts are salesy, they're pushy, they try to persuade, they back into a corner. Introverts, they listen, they ask questions, they're consultants. They're gathering information while they're listening. They take notes, good eye contact, whatever you need to do here. Bottom line here, and I've said this before, that if you can learn to shut up, listen, ask more questions, they'll tell you everything you need to know to persuade them, and it makes the process much easier because you don't have to throw those persuasion darts hoping something sticks. You know exactly what you need to say and do to seal the deal. The second piece we need to talk about is when it's time to close, when it's a done deal, when they are sold, when they're persuaded, when the yes is in their mind, so you don't have to keep talking. Remember, you're talking 3 times too much. So let's talk about that first one. How do we shut up during the presentation? Remember, people love to talk about themselves. Let them talk. Let them reveal the information. Let them help you seal the deal. Some studies show you should only talk 20% of the time. I know that seems low, but it's a good target. It should definitely be less than half the time. And let me just put it to you this way. Have you ever been excited to meet someone? Wow, they're sharp, they've done a lot, they've been successful, they can teach me something. And you met them, maybe did lunch or something together, or you had a meeting and they just kept talking and kept talking and kept talking. And after a while, like, they're not all that. They're not that sharp because they revealed who they are. You could be doing the same thing. You're just talking too much. You're like, oh, wow. And here's the ironic thing. The more you listen, the smarter they think you are. Because sometimes when you talk too much, you say things that are maybe dumb or inappropriate or make no sense. So reduce the talking. Another study estimated that over 75% of the salespeople talk more than the prospect in the selling situation. Could be you, is you. We need to fix this. Studies also show people want to talk about themselves. That opens the doors to influence, increases the connectivity and the trust. So part of this is just being aware, asking more questions, formulating those questions ahead of time, maybe using a notepad so you can listen better. And of course, eye contact is a big piece of this. They need your eyes. We've talked about phubbing on the show before. That's a new word that's used that you're looking at your cell phone or your computer when someone's talking to you. Hello. I know you can multitask. I know you think it might not be a big deal, but they need your eyes. That shows you're listening, that shows you care. Turn off the monitor on your computer, shut the laptop, put your cell phone in a drawer, whatever you need to do. No more phubbing because it is a big complaint. Learn to focus on them, not to focus on what to say next. If that's you, always concerned what to say next, I don't want to forget, write it down on that notepad. We've talked about those listening skills. Learn to mirror and match their energy, their body language. They tend to open up more. And learn to listen with your ears, your eyes, and your heart. Why did they say that? What is the meaning behind that? And of course, you're always asking clarifying questions or answering a question with a question. And a couple rules here that we already know. Wait a few seconds, maybe even 5 seconds before you respond. Even though you know the answer, it just shows that you're thinking about it, you're contemplating it, you've been listening. And of course, one thing that destroys confidence and breeds arrogance is when you cut them off in the middle of a question or an objection because you're so excited with the response. You know the response. You've given the response before. You give the response thousands of times. Hey, first time they voiced it, you've got to pause. Don't cut them off. Then answer their question or solve their objection. So as you're learning to do this, you're always asking yourself the message, the real message. And if you're not sure, another question. Remember, great persuaders ask 3 times more questions. Can you tell me more about that? And then shut up, listen. What exactly do you mean by? Right? Fill in the blank. When you say blank, how would you define that? What does that mean to you? Have you tried that before? And of course, the most important is to summarize. So what you're saying is, because what they say the first time, what they mean could be very different things. Remember, you're peeling the onion back. You're treating them like a M&M. They have this hard outer shell, and you've got to get through that shell. That would be the relationship. That would be the trust. To get to the chocolate, to melt the chocolate down, to get to the peanut, which is the real issue. Sometimes we're just getting too much chocolate on us because we're not to the real issue. So you always summarize. Again, so what you're saying is, let me see if I understand you correctly, and maybe just own up a little bit. Yeah, I'm a little slow today. Let me see if I understand this. And so they're not feeling dumb. You take it on you. Summarize so you know exactly what they're saying. They want to know they're being heard. Of course, it increases the connection. You're building relationships. It's increasing trust. They have to be heard. Even if you know the answer, they have to be heard. I've used this example before. When you go to the doctor's office and you're feeling sick, nurse comes in, does all the vitals, and the doctor opens the door and says, yeah, I know what you have. Good to see you. Prescriptions at the front counter. You'll feel better in a few days. You'd be hopping mad, but let's back up. Let's say the doctor's 100% correct, saved you 10 minutes of time and just solved your problem. That does not matter because you feel violated. You needed to be listened to. You needed the doctor to ask you questions. And this is true in the persuasion process. Even though you know what's best for them, you've got to help them discover it for themselves, help them close themselves, and you do that with questions and becoming a better listener. So formulate those questions ahead of time, and you'll be able to find their true pain points, and they'll tell you everything you need to know to persuade them. The second piece here is, when do you shut up? You know they're sold, you know they're closed, you know they're persuaded, okay? You've got to be able to read them. Remember, you're listening with your ears, your eyes, and your heart. How do you know it's time to shut up? Well, the first one's the nonverbals. When their facial expressions relax, it looks like they've made a decision. They're looking at the paperwork. There's approving glances between partners. There's a spark in their eyes. They're leaning a little closer. Their head starts to nod up and down in the yes motion. Their palms, their hands, their arms might relax a little more. They begin to mirror you. There's more energy in their voice. Look for those things. And say something simply, sounds like a good fit. Let's get going. And they'll say yes. Or you say, do you see how this will solve your challenge? Do you see how this will? And you fill the blank and they say yes, done and done. Or over the phone, or even face-to-face, you got to hear what they're saying. Can you tell me about those terms again? Can you be more specific here? What's the exact number? Can I see a demonstration? When can I have that delivered? Who's using this product and service right now? Okay, that means you're close. You're getting there. A few more questions, they can see themselves using it. Or especially when you hear things like, wow, that's a great deal. Well, that's not expensive. I could see how we could use that. Wow, that's the best I've seen. Whew, that would work for us. Man, that would solve our problem. Done, done, and done. I'll answer that later, or even they answer and they keep talking, they're done. Pay closer attention to them. Treat them like the most important person on the earth. Don't keep vomiting and throwing up and data dumping, or the 17 reasons they should do it. I know you're programmed that way, but you got to resist that temptation to do that. Remember the studies, you're talking too much, 3 times too much. Now, these tools will save you a lot of time, make you a lot more money, be more persuasive. When you understand the buying signals, knowing when to close, when you know that during the presentation, you should be listening more than talking, it'll make a huge difference. You'll be able to sell, persuade, and make a better income. Now, if you want to know more about that, knowing when to shut up, I take what I talk about on the podcast and I kind of supersize a little bit on the YouTube channel, Maximize Your Influence. Now, remember, we're on YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, iTunes. Tell your family, friends, and enemy, but hey, apply at least something that you learned today. Don't say, oh, that was nice. Apply it, use it, become more influential, use it to change your life, change your relationships, change your income, and go out and persuade with power.